Hello and welcome to this week's video feedback on the Learning Diary on discrimination. First off, just some tips before we start. The objective is to summarize and then to give your personal reaction to the documents. Make sure you give your personal reaction. Also, to help you to learn the vocabulary, grammar and pronunciation, you can explain it in your learning diary and also like as if you're teaching the information. And also at the end, make sure to reread your text to check for different mistakes. The first item we're looking at is the text, the reading comprehension text. And here is a good example of the person's reading feedback on the text. Here we have the summary of the text and then their opinion. They start with the text is about discrimination and racism in the US nowadays. The author has made a scientific research. Research is uncountable, so we won't use the word a. Also, for the verb noun collocation, we would more so use to do research or to carry out. So the author has carried out scientific research that shows that discrimination in general, we don't no need for that shows that discrimination against black people and others is real, can be seen in lots of different situations, and is due to our internal, here, that's the French word, in English the singular form is process, the plural form processes, es, for the plural form, due to our internal processes of fast reflection. He also spoke about positive discrimination, which is made to fight racism by making quotas as an example. Here, quotas is an example of positive discrimination. So we could put that example immediately after discrimination with e.g. or for example. Quotas. So he also spoke about positive discrimination, for example, quotas, to fight racism. Then the person gives their opinion. I think this text is interesting, interesting, because it shows the matter, or what maybe the person was trying to say, the importance. The importance of our subconscious in the process of discrimination, and explains why everyone can be racist even if he doesn't want to, why everyone could be racist even if he, she or they don't want to or don't mean to. So depending on what you want to say, just make sure that you use the correct language for what you want to say. Moving on to the listening comprehension. Here again, another very good example with a summary and then a long opinion on about their understanding of the text. The video is a report about the police officers. Now, if you're speaking about the police officers in general, no the, or the police officers in America. We learn the reasons why they became police officers and their points of view about the racial discrimination in general in the police. The idea is, if for them the police arrest and target in general, not most but more black people than white people, so we need more for the comparative with than. We can see different points of view and explanations. In my opinion, this short video is really interesting, interesting, because in history in general, so we don't need the, because in history, but unfortunately still today, we often hear that police officers stop more black people than white people, even without any apparent reason. So good language. But this is a racist act and we shouldn't forget it. Therefore, hearing, H-E-A-R-I-N-G, we'll use the gerund form of the word hear. Therefore, hearing testimonials of police officers who speak of this subject and say what they think is a first experience for me. And I think that it's important that they talk about racial discrimination in their jobs and try to explain why it still exists today, even if it does not justify it. So here we have two its, and it's not clear what the it refers to. So instead we could use the passive voice, even if it is not justified. So using the passive voice to say that even if discrimination exists, that it does exist, but it is not justified. So that was another good example for the listening comprehension. Moving on to the grammar. Here, as I was saying earlier, this person has explained and teaching the different grammar forms that they saw and understood in the video. In this module, Discrimination, the grammar video was about verb tenses. In English, capital letter for languages and nationalities. In English, not it exists, but there are two tenses, present and past. There is no future tense and no conditional tense. We don't need the N because the negative is in the no, and no conditional tense either. They are expressed with several structures using such as instead of like is more formal. To give examples, such as will or going to. Each tense can be conjugated with the simple form or the compound form. Then the person gives the different verb tenses in the present forms, the different verb tenses in the past forms, with explanations of when we use the verb tense and examples. So it's a good way to learn the grammar by teaching it to yourself. Moving on to the vocabulary. Here, this person, they have listed the vocabulary and they've also given an explanation of what the words mean. In this part of the lesson, we have learned new, again, capital letter for the language and nationality. We've learned new English vocabulary. I'm going to define some of them. So we have the different words, the vocabulary that they've learnt, and the definitions. In English, you don't need to put a space between the word and the colon. So no space between the word and the colon. Finally, moving on to the last part, which is the pronunciation. This person again has explained the pronunciation as they understood it, as explained in the video. So in pronunciation, for the spelling of pronunciation, there's no O there for the spelling. In pronunciation, we worked on stress, which is the strong syllable of the word. Contrary to French, where all syllables are equal, in English there is one syllable, which is more important than the others. But the problem is transparent words. The adjective of the word doesn't take an S, so no S on the adjective. The problem is transparent words which have the same, not writing, but spelling in French and English, but the pronunciation is different. A word in English is composed by weak, the incorrect spelling, W-E-A-K, the opposite of strong, by weak and stressed syllables, and there are three constructions possible. The last, or the ultimate, and it's for words which have French origin. Here the apostrophe should come between it and is, because it is becomes its. The apostrophe replaces the I. So the apostrophe should be between the it and the S. And it's for words which have a French origin, spelling no E on origin in English, and the penultimate for the word which finishes, just conjugation of the verb, which finishes in ION, IAL and IC. To conclude, there is the anti-penultimate for the word which finishes in eti, iti and logi. That's all for today. All the best for the rest of the last module.